I grew up with quite a distorted view of what my role in life was, who I was, what I was worth, because what nobody else knew was that I was being abused by somebody who really should have been there to care for me and protect me. Nobody knew about it, it was just this big secret, so I just kind of got on with it and tried to hide it. And so I felt pretty lost for a long, long time. I felt kind of hopeless, I felt pretty useless, and I just didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't feel like there was a way out of it, that this was just going to be where I was always going to be. Me and my friends used to go out and get drunk, and I realised that actually kind of, well, it felt like it helped. It took me away from the pain and the confusion and helped me to forget for a short time. And one night, me and a friend were down the local park drinking cider, and we drank far too much. A group of guys took advantage of that and dragged us both down an alleyway. They hit her head against a brick wall, knocked her unconscious and started to rape her. I thought she was dead and was forced to watch while they did that to her. But again, for me, that just reinforced what sex was all about. It was all about abuse, it was all about control, about violence, and it just, again, made me feel second rate, made me feel more used than I already was. A few years later, moved away. I left school, went through to another city to start university. I also joined the army at the same time. Work hard, play hard was the attitude, and we knew how to play hard. From there, I got into some pretty destructive relationships. I lost any real self-respect, self-esteem. I was often told I was stupid, I was ugly, I was worthless, I was never going to make anything of myself anyway, so why even bother trying? I then was left by the last idiot. He walked out at me one day with no explanation, and I suddenly realised that my life didn't actually fall apart. I realised just how much control he'd actually had on me. I made the decision that if relationships were all about control, if it was all about one person having the power and the other person not, then from now on I needed to be that person with the control. I started to go after guys that were already in relationships, whether it was with a girlfriend, whether they're married, whether they had kids. It really didn't bother me. I felt like these people really must want me. If they were willing to risk their family, if they were willing to risk their reputations by having an affair, then I had them where I wanted them. I had a lever over them. I had that control. I then got introduced to somebody who ran an escort agency by a friend of mine who had done it a couple of times. And again, I felt that this thing, doing that, would give me that control. But it didn't fulfill me. I just felt useless. I still felt pretty rotten, pretty hopeless inside. And I started to think about where some of my other friends were, some of my friends from when I was younger, some of the friends that I'd gone to church with, you know, other Christians that I knew. I started to see something that was different in their lives, something that I used to have, but I thought I'd blow my chances. There's no way I could get back to that. I was dirty, I was used, I was broken goods, I was damaged. So I started to make some tough decisions. I decided that I was going to move home back to my parents' house again, move back to the city where I grew up, and try and escape some of the old life. So I was invited to a church weekend away, to a retreat by some friends, so I decided I would go and see what God could do, see if he could do anything with me. While I was there, I did make another commitment to change, but again it was fairly half-hearted, and I ended up lying to the folk who was organising it, telling them that I had to leave early to go to work, when really I was heading off to meet some other friends in the pub to watch the rugby. As I was driving away, the same old attitude started to creep back in again, that I didn't need to change everything at once. I've got the rest of my life, I'm only young, I've got years ahead. The next thing I knew, my car was spinning. I was heading for a ditch. The car rolled over onto its roof, back at the wheels again, and it was a complete write-off. I got out of the car completely uninjured though. I started to realise that God really was looking out for me. There was not many crashes like that people can walk away from. And I thought, well, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe God does actually want to do something with me. I started to realise that the rest of my life might not actually be all that long. And so I needed to make changes while I could. So I got involved with another church at that point, a local church, who were willing to take me on as I was. And as I started to trust people, and people who love Jesus, I started to think, well, maybe I can trust him too. Maybe all these things that people say about him are actually real. I started to give it a go. And the more I gave in, and the more I gave over the hurts and the confusion in my heart, the more I started to realise things were changing. And God really helped me to lose the bitterness that I felt from unforgiveness. And God's really healed all of those hurts. He's made me that new person, and it's given me real freedom. It's given me real hope for a future, and it's brought me to the point where I can now talk about my past. I can talk about my life with no condemnation, with no fear of judgment, because I know now what I'm worth. I know my true value. I know that Jesus loves me, and I know that without him I would still be in the place that I was. My name is Ruth, and in Jesus I've found real hope.